So we are on Yud Amud Bet.
Absolutely.
Okay. And there's a whole series of different examples of items, activities that look like they could be permissible or prohibited, and depending on how you do them would tell you whether you're doing a malacha or whether you're doing something that is permissible. Well, so we had last time about whether you're making a threshing floor because you want to thresh the grain for Yantif, or whether you're actually trying to dig a hole in the property, whether you're trying to dig a hole in the ground, and it would depend on whether you're putting the what you dig out. Do you fill up a hole to even level it out, or would you dig out? You're throwing outside the hole. In other words, you're making the hole even deeper. Another example we had was about whether you looks like you're watering the land, but if you open the gate. The floodgate on the top of the property, and you also open the floodgate below the property, what you're really doing is having the water come through that's full of fish, and then the fish will remain as the water runs off. Obviously some water will get soaked in, but your intention is not to water the land, your intention is really to be able to collect the fish to eat on Yontif. But if you only open the gate on one end, and you leave the other gate closed, what are you really doing? You're letting the water run in to be able to water the land, which you don't need to do on Moed. So a couple more examples here that the Gemara gives, and we'll get into also flooding examples or fishing examples.
Mention the word, please.
Sorry, okay. Flooding is okay as long as it's not in your house. Right, so we are on the middle of the page, about 60% down. It says the Amar Rava. The first one line is the Ara. And it says Va'amar Rava Haiman de Pashach Dikla. First word is the Ara, the last word is Dikla. I'm not sure where Mr. Shine's also.
I know exactly where it was.
First word is the Ara, so the second word after the Ara, Va'amar Rava, is a little Yud superscript. Jack, with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Va'amar Rava, another example. Haiman de Pashach Dikla, Adaita de Chiyusa, Shari Adaita de Dikla Aser. If you're pulling off branches.
The dikla is a tree, isn't it?
A dikla is a palm tree.
Palm tree.
The palm tree has got one very fat stump, but there are branches that come off it, where it becomes lulavim, eventually open up into palm fronds. If you're pulling off the palm fronds, if you're trying to collect food for your animals, I guess the shoots are, when they're young and soft and edible, are good for animals. Heart of palm, right? Palm hearts is a good example.
Okay.
Or on the other hand, if you're doing it for the dikla, for the dekel, for the palm tree, it's asr. That's already considered pruning. So how do you know? How do you know what he's doing? So if you're taking all of the shoots off on one side, you're collecting food for the animals. You're collecting shoots for the animals. So you're not really concerned about the tree. You're actually going to unbalance the tree.
Right.
If you're taking off the shoots from all around the different sides of the tree, right. Okay. So if you're taking on both sides, then you're really showing that you're really concerned about pruning the tree. Once again, that's something you shouldn't do on Talmud. You wait till after Yantif. Okay, be asr and it's asr. A couple more examples. V'yama Rava, another example that Rava gives. All of these, by the way, are Rava's examples. Hani tmare tochlani, if these are unripe figs. Okay, let's find a place. These are figs. I'm sorry, they are dates. Excuse me, not figs. Dates. They're dates that did not get fully ripened. So what happens if you don't process them correctly? So they will probably get moldy, or they won't ever ripen. You have to. It's like getting a green apple and putting it out in the sun or something, or putting it where it'll ripen naturally. So these are unripe dates. Migzarinhu shari. Migzarinhu means to cut them. If you cut them into two, and that's when you cut the date into two, it'll probably ripen, and also it's edible that way. If it's not cut, you can't get it. It's probably not ripe enough. When you cut it in half, it's thinner. You can get to the middle of it.
Some things ripen, some fruit ripen, some grapes and everything.
grapes never ripen the way you pick them the way they are. Whereas certain like apples and certain things.
What do you mean after you picked it?
Yeah, certain things will ripen when you pick them, and certain things grapes will not. As you when you pick them, that's it. Just saying.
Right.
Yeah.
They have stuff because if they're not ripe, they won't get riper.
Yeah, but sometimes an apple or certain pears, or certain pears, for example, you pick them not ripe, let them sit a little bit, they ripen up.
Bananas.
Right.
Bananas, different things. But grapes, certain things do, certain things do.
Strogan, eventually you buy them green, they eventually turn yellow.
Yeah. They ripen up, but certain things do not. Grapes do not.
So what about
Let me say your comment.
So what about these tamarim?
So therefore, so in other words, if you cut them in half,
interesting.
What you can do is you cut them in half and you can eat them like this on Yontif. So that's already that's a tzorach of Yontif. You can't eat them otherwise. But my tzinhu, this was to squeeze. This was to put some kind of press on them, so that would take out the moisture on them, that they don't become wormy. In other words, this is, I believe it's some kind of way to put a process on them that they will dry out because they're not fully ripe. They could probably go wormy because they're still developing, but if you squeeze them tight, you're going to basically get dry dates. So even though they're not fully ripe, you can still eat them as dry dates, and you're going to squeeze out all the moisture, so basically nothing will attack them.
But you're going to be using them actually on the yontif anyway, right? Your whole point of doing this is that you can use it, and you may not use it on dafka and yontif.
So the answer is the reason that you're putting them to squeeze them is you want them to last a long time. So that looks clear that you're not using them for yontif. No, as if you want to eat them for yontif, it's chol Moed. So 3 days is be yontif. If you want to eat them on yontif, so you simply cut them open. If you really wanted to keep them longer period of time, then you kind of want to press them down. You want to dry them out.
Right.
And the way to dry them out was, you normally think of drying out grapes like making them raisins or something like that, but this apparently was some kind of press to squeeze the moisture out.
He actually saying to make, it's interesting because unless they've changed the modern word, simukim is in fact raisins, right?
Well, it means to dry them out. Simukim or raisins means they're...
Yeah.
Simukim is a term that's used for all dry things.
Lachlan b'chol Moed.
Right.
Hu mekabe, I see. Asur.
What's we're talking b'yontav machol, b'yontav machol dechol. You can't prepare for yontav that what you're going to eat for yontav every day.
Because they put them in the sun for a week or
so in other words, so really, once again, if you're using it for the same way that you could use it to catch, you could water the field to catch fish for yontav, but you couldn't water the field for long term. So if you want to eat these now, the way to process them is you cut them open, and they'll stay. They won't get wormy because you open them up. The worms can't live in there. The worms like a dark environment, right? But if you want to keep them long term, then you want to squeeze out the juice, and you want to press out the juice. That already you can't do because that's showing that you're really doing this for chol. Okay. So now that's one opinion, and Rav Papa says no. Rav Papa says there are times you can do something on chol Moed, even if you may not use it for chol Moed, specifically what's called davar ha'avad. So if something is going to be ruined and you're going to suffer a loss, so then you're permitted to do things that would normally not be permitted on chol Moed. So Rav Papa says, Rav Papa Mar, kevan the mitlai, seeing that if you don't remove the juices and you want to keep them. In other words, the first opinion says I can prepare them for yontif, I can't prepare them for the week after. But what if I want to use this for the week after? What's going to happen to them? They'll go moldy. The worms will still get in there if I haven't squeezed the juice out. So it's keprakmatya ha'avidam. It's like business. It's like business that will go down. That will be a tremendous loss, and will be davar ha'avad. Okay, and this is going to open up a whole discussion about what davar ha'avad really is. Davar ha'avad means the Chazal permitted me to do certain things on chol Moed, in order to preclude a loss. Now, anything is a loss, but there are certain natural losses and certain unnatural losses. It means non-natural loss, and by the way, it also may mean, as we'll see in the Gemara, it may mean not that there's a loss in the profit. There'll be a loss in the principle.
Could this be the difference between opportunity cost? That is,
what that means.
Opportunity cost is, in the economic sense, you could make money on chol Moed that not necessarily that you could make, let's say, after yontif is over.
So there are different opinions how far that actually goes. Does it go for opportunity as well, Or does it mean there has to be a loss within the principle itself, not just opportunity to make a profit?
Right.
It could be I can suffer a loss.
Correct.
Right? I have I don't know, rotting apples. If I don't sell them today, I can't sell them next week. But on the other hand, I don't have to harvest the apples necessarily today.
Correct.
Right? Even though I got a real good deal on the market. So that's going to be a discussion about 3 or 4 lines here, how far this actually goes.
Okay.
Okay, so it could be one approach. Okay. But clearly, if Dabra Avad is something that does play a role here. Okay. Right now, the Gemara says Bishari, the Amar Rava, and Rava says, Prakmatya kolshu aser. Okay, so here's where we're actually getting into it. Excuse me. Prakmatya is business. To do any kind of business in Chol Moed is prohibited. However, if it's going to cause a loss if you don't do it, then it's permitted to be done on Chol Moed. It's talking about very difficult labor. It's not really the same definition of malacha as on Yom Tov and Shabbos.
Loss means just
means a loss. Usually it means a loss of the principle. If I don't sell, for example, I have, let's say, rotting apples are starting to rot. If I don't sell them now, I don't take them out to the marketplace, by after Yom Tov they'll be gone. That's a good example of Dabra Avad.
Right.
Well, and the Gemara is going to give a couple of examples that would just...
So this doesn't have anything to do with how much effort you have to put in. This is strictly, sounds like a question of loss.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, right?
Right.
Not luxury effort, not. It said don't do business on Yom Tov, period.
Correct.
Right? Unless you're going to suffer a loss.
Was Rav Yossi Bar Avin in the same generation as Rava?
Yossi Bar Avin, as Rava, I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, Rava was the number one guy, right?
So he could be. This could be a Masorah that they're each referring to something earlier. Okay.
Because if you just read Rava, he said, no amount of merchandising is permitted.
Correct. So then there's a caveat that says, however, but you gotta know what Rava really means is the following case is permissible.
Okay.
So it doesn't. I don't know if it means necessarily machlokas, more as a explanatory kind of line. Look, we started the Masechta. We talked about all kinds of irrigation.
Right.
The fundamental part of that irrigation of that whole Mishnah is about if you didn't water the produce,
you'd lose.
Right.
So that's a good example of Dabra Avad as well. Mashkin Beis Shlachim and so forth.
But you can argue that's not doing business so much as business. But
right.
You could say
that's not about business. Not about business.
Yeah.
Dabra Avad is a general rule about anything.
Yeah.
It's not just about business. It deals with also allowing me to do certain things that I would not be normally allowed to do on Chol Moed.
Exactly.
So, but the chiddush is that even business, you would say business is not really work.
Right.
A business is business. It's just selling and buying and selling. So, nonetheless, business, if it's not Dabra Avad, is considered, according to Rava, prohibited.
Right.
Okay. Ravina Havale Ahu Iska. Ravina had this kind of deal of business or something or object or merchandise, probably the better term. The Havim Mizdabin Beshisa Alfe. So he wanted to sell it, or he had an opportunity to sell it for 6,000 coins. So, and which means he'd have to sell it on Chol Moed.
Right.
And he thought that was a good deal. What did he do? Shehiyah lizvunei basa chol demoada. He held back. Shehiyah means to hold, to wait. He waited from selling it until after Chol Moed, and guess what? He sold it for 12,000. So the market went up. Okay. Stock market went up. Whatever the price of the commodities market went up.
So good.
Correct. Okay. It's just showing you that sometimes you think you'll have a loss if you wait afterwards, and God helps you out. Yeah. Ravina having masik zuze b'bnei akra d'shnuasa. Ravina was owed money. Now it's not exactly clear what's going on here. Somehow they owed him money. Was this a loan? Was this a loan he was trying to collect, or was this some kind of business deal that they had to complete or something like that?
How many zuzeh was it? Masik?
It doesn't tell us, but Masik means they were chayev.
Right.
Who was chayev? The people who lived on the banks of the Shnuasa River. The Shnuasa was one of the rivers. The rivers, by the way, in rivers in Bavel were often like canals and were connecting rivers. So it was many rivers in Bavel, not just the Tigris, Euphrates. There's all kinds of smaller rivers that are identified in the Gemaras. So the people, and apparently he didn't normally live there. Ravina probably lived in, I don't know, Masa Machasia was probably where he lived, where the yeshiva was, and these people owed him some significant amount of money, and he happened to be there. He happened to be in this place on the banks of the Shnwasa River, and on Moed, bingo. So also Ravashi, he came to Ravashi. Ravina and Ravashi lived the same time. So he's turning to Ravashi, his colleague, his elder colleague, and he says, Mahu lemezel ha'idna alayhu. What do you think? Can I go collect the money now? They probably were both in Masa Machasio, and he's now traveling. He's about to leave for this little rinky town on the banks of the Shnwasa River. And he says, Ravashi, you think I can go collect them while I'm there? Save me a trip later on after the Yontiv. So Amalei, Ravashi says to Ravina, Kevan da idnahu the mishkachas lahu. Seeing that on this day you'll be there, you'll find them. Another day you won't be there. You're not going to have an opportunity to get back there. I don't know how far it was. I don't know how difficult it was. So therefore, it's like prakmacha, it's like a loss of business. And it's permissible. Okay, so in other words, when opportunity is there, it is permissible to do certain things. And once again,
there clearly it's opportunity.
It's opportunity, or once again, it might be the principle. We don't know exactly what the deal is. Is it money they owe him? Maybe he lent them $1,000. It's not about opportunity, about making a profit.
Right.
Maybe he's trying to get the money from them. They said, Rabbi, when you'll come by, you'll get the money. Sure, and the check's in the mail, and he has an opportunity to be there. So we don't know if it's about making 1,000 into 2,000, or really just getting back his 1,000.
True.
So that's why I said, you look at the Rishonim, there's this little give and take. What exactly is it all about? Does it have to be a loss from the keren, the principal? Right. Or even what your maviach would be a loss. That's okay. Correct. So this Tosfos mentions, for example, about people selling wine. Mm-hmm. If they wouldn't sell wine, I guess at that point the price may go down.
Right.
So is that permissible? And that's going to really relate to the concept of whether it's the loss of the principal or loss of the profit.
Mm-hmm. One would suspect that the price of wine would go down after Yontiv because people want it for Yontiv, they don't want it for after Yontiv.
It's going to.
Well, Jewish wine.
Jewish wine, you're right.
Right. So, in fact, Tosfos says that the deal here with Rav Papa was specifically about one opinion was about selling wine. That's why there's a concern the price was going to go up or down. Okay. The other opinion was some kind of loan.
So it's not even clear if this is a loan.
Right, it's not clear if it's a loan.
For my sake, I thought, okay, because...
So in other words, it looks like they owe him money. Looks like they owe him money.
Yeah, but that's different than selling.
Right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, this whole stitch of the Gemara is dealing with prakmacha, which is business.
Business.
So a loan is not business.
Well, it could be a loan. It could be a business. It's a money lending business. What do you mean? Jews have been in them. Aren't you allowed to lend money? It could be to goyim. There's enough to be to Jews. No, I'm saying it's not clear that it's lending to Jews. Right?
Well, lending money is not business. Business means have a deal to do. Lending money is lending money and collecting it. If you lend to a guy, you could collect with interest.
Yeah, that's what
so we consider that business. Chazal didn't call that prakmacha; they called that halva. The term that's used is not going to be called prakmacha. Refers to buying and selling.
Lending to a Gentile with
lending is called halva. Okay, called halva, called ribbis, but it's not called prakmacha.
Same word. Greek word.
Pragmatic. Pragmatia?
Yeah, it could be.
Probably. Sure it is.
Same word. Pragmatic.
Okay, make pragmatic good.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, I
wouldn't be surprised either. Greek, no question about it.
Makes sense. Pragmatic, pragmatia, I agree. Okay? Okay. And the Gemara says, or Ravashi says, I'll give you a similar example. That you cannot do business with the non-Jews when it comes to their yontif, because we're afraid that they're going to use it for their idols. Okay, but let's say you happen to have an opportunity that you're visiting a yerid, a fair, or goyim, and it's their yontif, so and you're not going to be there. So you have an opportunity to kind of do the deal and get stuff from them. So you can actually buy it from them, even though you're going to give them money, and the money may end up being using for their idolatrous worship. So you see that opportunity or change or unique circumstances does play a role. Tanya nami gabi avodah zarah ki agav. Similar thing with avodah zarah. Hochim li'arid shel akum. You go down to the shuk of the akum, the day of the shuk. The arid was a special time, right? The lochim behema avodim mishvachos. You buy from them their animals. animals and slaves and maidservants and botim and sados and krumim, v'kosev, and you can do this even though the money you give them could be used for who knows what. And v'kosev umal, and you write, okay, and you write it and you form it even be'archo shalem. You can even go into their courts, which you normally can't go into. You can't deal with their courts, and you sign the documents there, because you're saving the opportunity for you, which is not going to come up later on. Though you're saving these objects, and you're redeeming them, and you're going to be able to use them, and you won't be able to do them later, so therefore it's permissible. Okay.
You can use their courts if it's with goyim, right? Can't you?
Well, apparently this was that you can use their courts if you're summoned to a court, right? But you're talking about putting yourself in a situation where you have to go into the court in order to consummate the sale.
Yeah, but there are two kinds of courts.
And that's not.
I guess the courts maybe had all kinds of idols. I don't know. Maybe you have to sign with, you have to swear with. I don't know. Okay. So in other words, but the point of it being that even though normally these things are usher, they're permissible in times of opportunity where otherwise would be a loss. Okay. Rav Shara L'chir Barashi. Did I skip a line? No. Rav permitted to Chir Barashi L'migdal Uhara B'chola Moed. This was to make fish nets. He was able to enlarge his fish nets on Chol Moed. Right? In other words, they need to be repaired, they need to be fixed, they need to be made larger. Why?
What's his excuse for that?
My time, or Maisa Hedju too. So really we have this other rule that Maisa Hedju, if it's unskilled labor, now you and I probably are not the people to make fish nets, but I guess...
who's going to make fish nets except a fisherman? We're assuming here that some ordinary guy wants to make fish nets.
The answer is that to be a fisherman requires a skill to go how to fish, not to make nets. Making the net is no different than probably stringing together a lot of ropes.
I don't know about that.
For you and I, for we landlubbers,
I wouldn't say the average person can make a fish net to catch.
Well, I would be willing to say that probably the average person, maybe in Nova Scotia and up on the coast, may be able to make fish nets very simply.
Well, repair them.
That's possible.
Right now, you and I we never did this, so we wouldn't know where to begin. We've got two left hands. But in those days where this was common,
yeah, maybe.
So. And then, you also have to think of it, don't think of this so much as like the fishing nets that go out into the Atlantic Ocean.
No.
You think of it as like a basket, like,
Yeah, maybe the women and this,
I mean, you sometimes see natives, like, try to have a basket, they kind of just...
For sure.
Pick up fish out of the water.
The English says the basket traps.
Basket traps.
That's like for...
So these are basket traps, the trap that's...
Yeah, no, we're talking about the kind you put...
So in other words, this ura, whatever it is, it was some kind of simple trap that anyone
Maybe
could
a lot of people went around fishing. They weren't fishermen, right? They just... Maybe that's how they ate, like ordinary people.
Correct.
Built some of these things.
Fishing was not. It's not sports fishing. It was real food. It was eating. So, you know what? Go upstairs.
By ordinary people.
Speak to the Inuit. They'll tell you the same thing. That's what you eat. You have to learn how to fish. They'll probably learn how to go spearfishing up there.
Mm-hmm.
But spearfishing is probably also Maisa Hedjud for them.
Yeah.
Or at least was. So Aval, he permitted Rav Chir Ba'ashi to make fishing basket nets. Aval Islay is a basket for catching birds.
Snare of some kind.
Some kind of snare, some kind of net, some kind of basket that was meant to catch birds. So that was permissible. That was prohibited, my time. Well, what's the reason? So he says, that requires a lot more knowledge how to build a net. It makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know exactly what these things are, but a bird is probably a lot more agile than a fish. Right? Part of the issue with the net is you catch the fish, you pull the net out of the water, and the fish is at a real disadvantage. You can't do the same thing with catching a bird.
From a general point of view, though, Masa Omed versus Masa Hedjed, it's a very subjective kind of definition.
Exactly.
As we discussed, even writing on Cholamoid.
Correct.
Yeah, it says you can write.
And the answer is, in the days of the Gemara, writing on Cholamoid was Maisa Uman. Today it's Maisa Hedjed.
Right.
I agree.
So is this something that changes?
Yes.
Changes over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, there are still some people today will tell you that writing is Maisa Uman, based upon the Gemara, because of course the Gemara never changes. Halacha is immutable. No, I'm saying, and that's why they, if you know people like this, they
write with left hand.
They write with the left hand. But they actually do something even a lot less. They usually write the first line of the slant. So I heard about this left hand. Of course, that's not even possible to write with the left hand.
You're used to it.
Not for me.
But if you take the first line, and that's how they make it, they write the first line at a different angle. That shows the shina. Once you do the shina, you feel a little bit, you can do the rest of it okay. Many years ago when I was much younger and when elementary school, we told our 4th grade English teacher that we couldn't write on Chol Moed. And she believed us. Then we told our Rabbi and he slapped us. But we tried, it worked. Okay, it worked for 1/2. All right, anyways. What did she know, right? She didn't know.
Right.
The teacher, whatever the school said, they were actually very concerned. They wouldn't break the laws.
Of course.
Right? It was their parnassa.
She depended on the students.
No, she asked the principal, not the students.
Okay, but you know what? Whatever it was, probably asked later on.
One day he got by.
Right. This was you realize we had school on Chol Moed.
Right.
I remember school on Chol Moed. Right, that's the way it was for most schools in those days.
Absolutely.
At least for sukkahs.
Not anymore.
There you go. Yeah.
We did too. I think it's fine. I think.
So the answer is not anymore. And if you think about it, why should it not be anymore? Especially for sukkahs.
Yeah.
You say, well, families are off. And the answer is, if you ask most parents are not off.
We used to eat the sukkah. I remember we used to eat the sukkah.
You do things with your kids on Chol Moed. That's what I did.
But people can take off. Not everybody can take off.
Yeah.
Not everybody can take off.
It's true.
That's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for a lot of people. But a lot of people have to go to work.
But you have to go to work, but how come you're going to work? It just says you can't do business.
Because you don't come in on Monday, you won't come in on Tuesday. So that's the double.
At the end of the week, you'll be at the...
That's right. That's mamash double of it.
Well, it would be interesting. So let's say your employer agreed. Okay, wasn't an issue. I know where. But you're going to lose money. Let's assume you would lose your pay. Say, fine. It's your holiday. Take it off. But we got to hire somebody else for a couple of whatever.
So I forgot there's a tshuva somewhere, and I don't remember who wrote it, when the guy said, should I save up all my vacation days for Chol Moed? And the answer was no, and I don't remember why.
We discussed this way.
Yeah.
Because you have to be a mensch to go on vacation once in a while, too.
Right.
Maybe that was the answer.
I know, but what's the justification based on these?
The answer is it usually goes back to two things. One is it's maybe Ma'aseh Hedjot, and B, it's Davar Ovid. And the business has to stay open. If business closes, it creates Ovid for somewhere. No matter what you're going to do. Now, you can't, that doesn't permit things like staying open on Shabbos and Yom Kippur and so on, but where there's Davar Ovid, there's Davar Ovid. Whatever business you work in, it's the society we live in today, it doesn't close, it doesn't stop. It's a service society. That's usually the answer. So, anyways, we're back at the bird traps and the fish traps. So one is Ma'aseh Hedge and one is Ma'aseh Uman. And you're right, there is a certain subjectivity, and you have to see what society is all about, and what is
it's all within context of the
correct.
society.
And there is no one today who doesn't write. There's no one today who doesn't. Not only there's no one today who doesn't write. There's no one today who doesn't type.
On a computer,
On a computer. You know what? When I was a kid, it was a long time ago.
Professional type.
Not professional type. We used to write papers and we used to hand them in written, longhand, double spaced and everything.
And you got marks on your hand and your.
Correct. That is not permissible. That's not permissible.
Now it's not.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that today. I don't know what is in elementary school. You surely can't do it in high school.
A chat, you can't hand in any papers that are all written.
Homework you can do written. But I'm saying if you have to do a term paper.
Oh, for sure not. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
That's already over 20, 30 years now, I guess.
I remember as a kid writing stuff, and we handed it in, we didn't have to type it. You know what?
Essays, they call it.
I'll tell you what I remember. When I had to type something, my mother typed it. Yeah. My mother flung a yarn, sat on the little letter typewriter, the portable, boom, boom, banging it out, right? And that's what I used. And the reason was I never typed because it didn't happen that frequently.
Because when I went to school, girls got typing. Guys, except for one or two.
Exactly.
At that time, we thought they were weird.
Right.
Guys,
but only girls
got auto shop.
And they got cooking.
We didn't have auto shop at the time, but we didn't have typing.
Okay, so there we are. Rav Yehuda Sharala Ami Tanura. Rav Yehuda permitted Ami Tanura. This was the Ami, the tanur maker. They called him Ami Tanura. Okay. This was the local oven maker. Okay. And you remember those days ovens were clay ovens. Yeah. They had to be made. The clay had to dry. So he permitted him lemigdal tanura to make tanurim on a new tanur on Chol Moed. Why? The answer was you wanted to cook. In other words, when you have an oven, you're going to use it right away.
I guess it would crack or something, or break or whatever.
Well, they wore out, they got used, whatever.
So what we're saying is, it's interesting, because here it's not the davar avud. What we're saying is, we can allow, but we're allowing another Jew to do his professional work. Is that what we're saying?
Correct, but
so that I can benefit on Yontif.
So tzorech Yontif doesn't have to be for my Yontif, it could be for your Yontif.
No, but here, the implication...
The record knows he's doing this.
He's in this business, right? Obviously, this is surely a Maseh Uman.
Yes, it is.
Right? So we're saying, because I would like to cook on Yontif...
No, because you need to cook on Yontif, not because you like to cook.
I'm saying, I didn't think of this before.
Because it's a tzorech of Yontif. But tzorech of Yontif does not mean that it works for me. It helps.
Somebody for
someone is going to use it for Yontif.
And anybody can help out.
And seeing I'm the only guy in town who knows how to make tanurim, I do it.
I got it.
And I assume this was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi?
No, I assume this is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda the Amoram. I don't know if Rabbi Yehuda Yeres, probably Rabbi Yehuda Chalafta. Okay. But I don't know, because I see this is all mixed up among different Amoraim. Between Rav and Rabbi Bar Shmuel.
Okay.
Or Rabbi Yehuda the Amora. So, and he permitted Ami Tanur to make his tanurim. Rabbi Bar Asavi, and he permitted Rabbi Bar Asavi, some guy we never heard about. Lemigdal Mahulta, to make Mahulta is vinegar. Okay, and I don't know how you make vinegar.
Vinegar. You take.
It says here sieves.
Sieves? Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry, my mistake.
Sieves.
Mahulta is nafeh. Nafeh makes sieves. Okay, sieves and sifters, which were also to use for Yontif. Okay, why?
Same reason.
Yep. So the Gemara doesn't really question the part about the Mahulta. The Gemara says, is this true? But the question is about the Tanur. Tani Rabbi Bar Shmuel. Rabbi Bar Shmuel had some kind of brisa they quoted. It said, B'shavim shein goldim tanur lechatchila. That apparently in this brisa there seems to be agreement that they can't make tanurim from scratch. Right? You can fix them, you can work them, but you can't make them from scratch. So the Gemara's answer is, Lo kasha kan bi mosachama, kan bi mosach shamim. So the difference whether it's the rainy season or whether it is the dry season. Now, the obvious question is, the Yontif always comes out the same time of year. Right? The rainy season is neither Sukkot nor Pesach.
Right.
They're both one is the end of dry season, one is
before the beginning.
One is the end, one is the beginning, one is the end of the dry season, one is the beginning of dry season. So Rashi says it depends if it happens to be raining on Sukkot. Doesn't mean it's actually the time of Yemot Kshamim, but sometimes there is early rain. Okay, and or Sukkot is late, if you will, and if it rains on Sukkot, it obviously didn't usually rain on Pesach. Now, what's the big deal? So if it rains, so who cares?
Exactly.
Melts the tanur.
So that's what I would have thought. The answer is it doesn't melt the tanur, but it doesn't allow it to get cured properly, to dry properly.
Oh, okay, maybe.
So it's the same thing.
The clay or something.
Right, the clay has to dry and it gets baked in the sun. So if, therefore, it's raining, to make a tanur today, let's say the rain forecast is for all Chol Moed, you're never going to get used as for Yontif.
Yeah, because it won't dry.
So it won't dry. So I don't know how long it takes to dry an oven. Maybe a day, 2-3 days. But whatever it is, with raining, it's not going to dry. So therefore, it will dry next week when the sun comes out, but it's not going to dry now. So therefore, it's not a tzorech Yontif. Okay, all right. Okay, so this takes us to the last Mishnah of the parak. Next parak, by the way, gets mixed in with a little bit of Avelus and also Davar Ava. It talks about trying to start things and you can't finish them before Yontif, when you can do it on Chol Moed. But the last Mishnah here also deals with different kinds of things that you're permitted to do. Okay, so what do we have? This Mishnah talks about Makeh. So
Makeh, yeah.
Makeh is a barricade around.
Barricade, right.
Around the
parapet. A parapet. I like the word. Parapet's a good word.
Right. So that you don't fall off a flat roof. Right. So
the Torah says you have to make one, right?
Right. Correct. But there are different ways and different permanencies that you can make it or not make it. So the Mishnah says as follows. Okay. Osin makeh legag, you on Chol Moed, you can make a makeh for a gag is a roof or a merpeset. Merpeset, as you're probably used to hearing, this is a modern Israeli term. This is actually where it comes from. The merpeset was some kind of balcony that before they went up to the top, to the roof, and apparently they could go up and down on this merpeset from within the house. They could go up a level. So if you didn't have this merpeset blocked off or fenced off, you may go off the edge.
But as we heard, like there's a positive commandment to make a
Correct.
At first, like
Correct.
I assume that we had to have it as soon as it was built.
Correct.
And it wasn't.
So, or it collapsed.
Or collapsed.
Or something happened to it.
Fell off.
Right. Whatever it was is no longer usable. That happens too. So the Mishnah has a caveat, Maaseh Hedjot. Provided it's a Maaseh Hedjot, it's a temporary or simple way of building it. It's not a fancy schmancy kind of permanent architectural structure. Below Maaseh Uman, but you can't do Maaseh, you can't make Maaseh Maaseh Uman. Now, what is Maaseh Hedjot?
Don't build it to code.
So it's not don't build the code. There was no code, but the Gemara is going to give an example where they had stones, and the stones were not cemented together. And I know that sounds to you and me that's probably going to fall off the merpeset.
Yeah.
But
just to kill a few people below them.
Think of it as heavy bricks, one on top of the other. They're not going to move anywhere. But eventually, you want to cement them down, mortar them down.
Sure.
So that's attempt. That's Maaseh Hedjot, and it's not Maaseh Uman. Okay. I guess to be a real stonemason. Stonemasons are the highest level in the trade, highest trade. Because you don't do it properly, it comes apart.
The stones aren't square. They're not the bricks. They're probably stones.
Yeah.
So that you can pile them up, but they fall over. If you put the mortar between, it could last for 100 years.
Also, you have to make the mortar correctly.
Yeah, you have to mix it correctly.
Listen, it also, again, one of the things about piling up stones is not just how strong it is. It's when you approach it, you can see that there's something there, as opposed to not seeing the edge, right?
Right.
So,
that's true. Right.
in that sense, it already plays a role.
Stones will fall on the guy below.
Yeah.
So you put it in.
It was interesting. We where up at school we saw them building the what do you call it, the Schwartz Reisman Center, and you could see when they're building the building is up and the walls are not yet up. They had to put some kind of railing at the edge.
Yeah, by law.
That's code for construction workers.
Oh yeah.
We had a problem when we did Nativot. We didn't have it up. And someone fell.
That's very bad.
Yeah, very bad.
No, for sure.
From what floor?
Whatever floor.
It was on the second floor.
But it's going to fall in.
No.
He's hurt himself a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And the contractor was fined and
Yada yada, correct.
Yeah,
So I'm saying, but you think these guys are construction guys, you realize, but people can sometimes slip.
Yeah, sure, of course.
You
realize you're working.
You're not paying attention. You're
You back up.
The truth was, the type of makeh they had for these guys, you and I would probably just knocked it over. Yeah, that's right. But that's why they're construction workers and I'm not. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. Maaseh Hedjot. I told you one thing is about the stones. The Gemara is going to give us another example of what Maaseh Hedjot is. Next is Shafin es Estokim. This is dealing with. This is like plastering a room or plastering a roof. That you wanted to cover the cracks to make sure water doesn't get in. So they use some kind of you smooth them over, you put like tit or some kind of mortar on top of them so that the water would not enter through the room and into the house. Umagilim oto b'magila. They had some kind of round roller that they would put on top of this tar or this mortar and they would flatten it out. Think of it like a rolling pin that's going to flatten things down. Biyad uberegel. And the Gemara is actually going to explain it doesn't mean that they would roll this rolling pin with a hand or a foot. It means they could also do it with a hand and a foot. And the Gemara is actually going to explain it a little bit more complicated. V'lo b'machal tzayim. But you can't use a special utensil which they use, which was meant to flatten down this mortar. Okay, so the Gemara is actually going to explain that what it means is you can use it manually with a hand or foot as a form of a magila, but you can't use any equipment whatsoever. So that's what the Gemara is going to explain it. Okay, that's one thing. Now the Gemara says, now the next piece talks about a lock. Hatzir v'hatzinor. Okay,
I think is a hinge.
One is a hinge, and the tzinor is the pivot that the hinge goes into. Kora is the lintel, right, the beam on top. Manul is the lock, the maftech is the key. Shenishbru, all of these things that are movable pieces, which is why they would normally break. If they break on Chol Moed, you can fix them. In other words, they spell these out because these were the parts of the house that probably had the most wear. Because open and close, open and close, open and close, so the hinge would break, the pivot would break, the lock would break, the key would break. So all of these metakna b'moed, you can fix them on Chol Moed, because if you didn't, what would happen?
Well, people would come in, or who knows?
Which would therefore makes it into what we call davar avad. Okay, it's potential for real loss. People come and clean you out. Yeah.
It says here, just again, a point of interest. It says doors of the ancients did not hang on hinges like we have here, but turned on wedge-shaped pins, which fitted into a hollow or metal ring fitted into the threshold and lintel.
So it was a kind of a hinge, but a different kind of
pivot in the center.
Like what's called?
Like a revolving door, like a sort of pivot in the center.
Right, like the locks they have in Eretz Yisrael where the bolts come out on four sides, that kind of thing.
No. Instead of hinges on the doors,
it'd be like a hole
in the middle,
let's say, and the door would have a piece of pole.
Pivot in the bottom and the lintel, the top and the bottom.
Same kind of idea.
I've seen old doors like that. Good.
It's just interesting because we're learning something, and it's. I looked it up on Google, and they would have a stone with a little hole in it, and a piece of wood would go into this hole, and it would pivot on the bottom and on the top.
They still make sheds like that, I think. Doors of sheds. Anyways, but yeah, good. But the bottom line is the reason this is singled out is for two reasons. First of all, if you didn't fix it, it was going to be a big problem because someone else would get in and out. And second of all, this chances would break. Because they were movable and they moved every day, they were the point of contact where things would come apart, and the equipment would kind of unravel. Provided you didn't really intend to do this on Chol Moed. In other words, you say, well, it broke the week before Yontif, I'll wait for Chol Moed, I'll make do.
Have a little extra time.
Okay. So, and the last thing is v'kol kvashim sheyochol lechol b'hem moed kosher. This is pickle things that you're pickling in vinegar and salt that you can eat on Chol Moed, and they pickle quick enough that you can pickle them today and eat them on Chol Moed kosher, and you can do them on Chol Moed because practically speaking you can still eat them on Chol Moed.
What would be the havamim that you couldn't do it?
Because
you're making
longer.
it certainly yontiv.
Because I guess the answer is you could eat it unpickled. Sorry, it's a tzorech yontiv of a sort. I guess is there anything that you eat pickled that you would not eat unpickled? I suppose so. Pickled tongue. I don't know.
No, pickled green tomatoes. I don't know.
You could eat
certain things you would need raw. Most things not.
But the tomatoes not going to pickle in a couple of days, I don't think, right? I mean, all this.
Maybe also because once you pickle it, it lasts for a long time.
I mean, you understand what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
So all I can say is the Gemara is going to take this as a discussion to talk about fish, which they pickled.
Pickled fish.
Like herring.
Well, more importantly, when they pickled fish, this is how they preserved it. They salted it. The pickling was not so much as you think in vinegar, like herring, but they would salt it. The salt would keep the fish. So the Gemara is going to give a couple of examples where the river dried up and they had to collect the fish. Either they used the fish, ate the fish, pickled the fish, or they went bad. Another example. Now the problem is if it takes a certain amount of time for the fish to pickle. What happens if could you eat it in the interim? And the Gemara gives you actually one way in which you actually could, if you squeeze out all the liquid and there still is pickle, there still is salt in there, the fish is edible still, even though it's not fully salted, cured.
No, because when I was a kid, my mother used to go to the fish guy, and there'd be a barrel with salt.
Oh, they're always in a barrel,
That's what I do.
You put your hand in, you slip it out.
No, that's what it was. Or in Newfoundland, they had the drops that pick the
My herring is a Jewish food because they had and they could keep it.
Salted cod.
That's for sure. The big barrel.
Fish was salted, or schmaltz herring was kept in oil. It couldn't. That once again that replaced the normal liquids.
But before you get to the oil, it comes in a barrel from wherever, Holland or whatever. Salt and water, brine.
For centuries.
Okay.
Brine.
Anyways, let's go a little further. Here we go. So at any rate, so the Gemara says Hechidami. So how Hechidami Ma'aseh Hedjed? What is the Ma'aseh Hedjed in terms of building the Makel? What are we talking? You can do Ma'aseh Hedjed, you can't do Ma'aseh Umay. So it looks like it's really not Ma'aseh Hedjed. It almost looks like it's completed work and not completed work in the Gemara's answer. Rav Yosef Omar, Behutza v'Dafna. Hutza and Dafna were different types of branches. No, it's branches. It's branches and like sticks from another tree.
How did Rav Yosef know?
What's it say?
That.
Daphne stick.
How could he possibly have known he was a Sulam, wasn't he?
So someone told him.
Like a hurdle. Or
He felt it. They took him up and said, "Feel this."
Okay.
So what does it say there? Sticks and something?
Hutza are like big frond kinds of branches, and it had something had to stick the palm leaves, the palm branches, and something had to stick them vertically to keep them from falling out. So think of it as a weave. The dafna was the vertical branches that were keeping it. Think of it as a wickerwork almost.
It says here it's a dwarf shrub, dafna.
Okay. So they took the shrub and they chopped off the sides, and boom, you had your sticks.
Okay.
So in other words, whatever it was, they were able to build this in such a fashion that it was an effective kind of barrier to keep people from falling off.
But it wasn't super good.
But it wasn't super good because it probably couldn't last forever. And Masnisa Tana, in a brisa we learned as follows: Tsar b'tzvar v'enotach b'tid. Tsar b'tzvar means using tzvarot or pebbles or stones, and you're not, however, cementing them down. Okay, all right, good. We'll go a little more because I want to get back up to the wedding. Shafanes asdakim magilan also magela. So this is what the Mishnah said, that you can smooth out the cracks. This is where we're trying to do waterproofing of some sort, keep the rain from coming in the roof or the wall. So you could smooth out the cracks. Magila also magila, and you can use this magila, which is some kind of hand roller. And you can even use it by your hand and foot. So the Gemara says hashta magila amr shari. With a magila, which is a hand roller, is permissible. Biyad regularly. Boy, I have to tell me I can use my own hand. Obviously, when you use a hand roller, which is a piece of equipment, I can use my hand. So the Gemara says haki kamar. Here's what it really means. It's not I can use a piece of equipment, the hand piece of equipment. It means I can use my hand as if it is a hand roller. So all the equipment is out. Shafanas dakim umagila noso kein magila v'yad v'regel below machatzayim. I can flatten out the cracks with my hand or foot, as if it's a hand roller, but I can't use a complicated piece of equipment to flatten them out. Okay. All right. So now the Gemara says about trying to fix these pieces of the lock of the door, the tzir, the tzinor, the korah, the manol, the maftech, shnishma, v'takna b'moed. So Gemara says, v'raminhu, we have a brisa that talks about the days of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Ad Yomav patish makeh b'Yerushalayim. So talking about how well, I guess, the society was developed. They said until his day, the days of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, that the people were, that's actually about Chol Moed, that they were using, you could hear the hammer banging Yerushalayim on Chol Moed, and he made a gezerah and he stopped them from using the hammers on Chol Moed. So the Gemara says, Raminu ad yom av patish maki b'Yerushalayim, which means ad yom av in, until his days they were used to hammer. Mikan ve'elach lo, but after that they did not. So how can you tell me that therefore you're going to be able to fix this pivots or these locks? And apparently the assumption was it took some kind of equipment to do this. You see, Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol stopped all kinds of construction on Chol Moed. So the Gemara says, well, there may be differences in the amount of noise it makes. Lo kasha kan b'denapchi kan b'denagri. Napchi are these blacksmith's hammers; those are very noisy. Nagri are the carpenter's hammers. So in other words, Yochanan Kohen Gadol didn't want loud noises going on Chol Hamoed. That really detracted from Yontif. But small amount of construction, like something like a carpenter, that's okay. Now, who's going to fix the lock on the house? Carpenter, not a blacksmith. So the noise is within control. That's the Gemara's first answer. So the Gemara says, Ravash Baskiflor of Chista, Yomer Kola Rabba Aser Kola Zuta Shari. They're going to say a loud noise is prohibited, a small noise is okay. I mean, how do you know it's a small noise? How do you know it's a loud noise? Elam Rav Chis, I'll tell you the difference. The difference we're dealing with some equipment that makes noise, some equipment that's silent completely. Lokasha kan b'magli, ha b'chatzini. Magli were large saws, and chatzini was small saws. So in other words, the difference is not a loud noise and a soft noise, but noise or no noise at all. And therefore that's the way to reconcile the Brisa about Yochanan Kohen Gadol, that after he lived there was no noise, but if you could do construction with no noise, that was okay. So fixing a lock didn't require any noise.
But you could still use tools, presumably.
But you could still use tools provided they didn't make noise. Right. Hammers made noise. Loud, big saws made noise. Small saws didn't make any noise. So the Gemara says, well, that's one answer. One answer, therefore, is noise versus no noise. Second answer, Rav Ashi Amar, Ho Rav Yehuda, Rav Yossi. The Bachlok is Rav Yehuda, Rav Yossi, Dan Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. Montana. I'm sorry.
I think it skipped Rav Papa.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. Rav Papa Amar, Kan Kodem Gzer, Kan Lach Gzer. Second answer is, no. One was before Yochanan Kohen Gadol, one's after Yochanan Kohen Gadol. You want to know when they could fix their locks? Before Yochanan Kohen Gadol. When he came along, they couldn't do any construction. That's a good answer. Third answer is that our Mishnah, which talks about being able to do this construction, and looks like you're doing things normally, is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who says that when there's a davar ha'avad, you don't have to do any shinui. You don't have to make any changes. Rav Ashi Amar, ha Rav Yehuda, ha Rav Yossi. It's machlokas Rav Yehuda and Rav Yossi, then Rav Yisrael Rav Dimi, man tana shinu b'moed b'davar ha'avad, delok Rav Yossi. That who says that you have to, when there's a davar ovid, you still have to make a change in how you do it. So ostensibly you would have to make no noise. Right. That's not Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says you could make noise. So in other words, we're saying that even within when there's a davar ovid, do you have to reduce the amount of noise or not? That's a machlokas Rav Yehuda and Rav Yossi. Okay, so that's the third answer. And Ravina says, Ravina, Kaman Madlinan Ha'inna Kivyusa Dedasha. What's Kivyusa Dedasha? What's not sure what this is. This is okay. You nailing nails in. This was when there are nails that have come out. They got to be nailed in. Mm-hmm. So, according to whose opinion do we nail in this kabiyusa dedasha that's next to in the korah near the door on Chol Hamoed b'chol demoada? Command Rav Yossi. Follows Rav Yossi says the davar ovid you don't have to make any change whatsoever, and therefore you can nail it correctly, and therefore in the case of the lock which came apart, you could fix the lock and do it in normal fashion. Okay, and that takes us up till the last piece of Gemara that we're going to talk about, which is about eating fish. Oh. So we're going to have. The end of the parak is going to give us advice from a fisherman.
Okay. Enjoy the wedding.